Me? I can see your face. All right, good. So, good morning, everybody. I'm Josh Caesar. I'm the director of retirement plans. A lot of you guys know me. We got a really exciting call today with our friends from Retirement Plan Advisors, RPA. They're another enterprise at Cambridge. Great firm that we can partner with in various ways. So, Ken and Josh will be talking about the various ways that we can partner with them moving forward. So, we got a great relationship with them and are already working some opportunities with them. So this is just more stuff that we can add to our repertoire that we can do with them to help each other grow our business and also help add revenue to maybe some existing 401k plans that you already have with Voya and other record keepers soon to that are coming down the road. So I'm going to turn over to Ken. Ken, take it from here, please. Thank you. And you're on mute, Ken.
Sorry, I think I'm good now.
Okay, I can hear you.
Yeah, thank you. And I know everyone's time is valuable. So hopefully we're going to keep this light, fun, and quick for you guys. But also at the same time, hopefully raise something. We're always looking for different ways to grow revenue. What we don't want to do is have to change what we're doing already because we know we're successful. So we always look at things that RPA brings to the table as additive to your business model, but not something new that you need to learn and selling a product and that kind of thing. And we'll make that pretty clear as we go through. But I'll give everyone a quick background. I do have Darren Doughty with us, who's on the call. Darren is my wingman, if you will. We head up business development, so old school, call it sales. And our primary focus, and then we also have Josh Schwartz, who will be joining us in just a second. Josh is going to go through really the thrust of what we're going to talk about today. But we focused primarily on public sector retirement plans. So that's, if you think about it, it's the 401k for cities, counties, municipalities, townships. It's not the pension plan. There's a lot of folks on the call, I'm sure, that are in Pennsylvania or, in other states that are close by where there's a defined benefit plan. We focus purely on the defined contribution plan. And in that respect, it's a 457B and a 401A are the tax codes. But the easiest way to say it is it's the 401k for public sector, if you will. Unlike, a private company, if, a Johnson & Johnson or an IBM has a 401k, the city of Harrisburg has a 457B plan. They act almost identical. They look identical. They act identical. There's some nuances in between. But so that was our bread and butter. We started 26 years ago. We're an OSJ, just like Premier. We've been with Cambridge our whole lives, if you will, for 26 years. We built a great partnership with them. When we joined Cambridge, I think there were 300 advisors or 400 advisors. Just to give you an idea, Cambridge is now up to 4,100 advisors and having some really great recruiting years. So that number's kind of going through the roof at the moment. But we've built a great relationship. We've had history with Amy Weber and the management team for years and years and years. And they saw us grow. We went from 3 founders. Josh, who will be on shortly, was one of the 3 founders. We started in 2000, and it all started with a layoff, which I know is kind of a common theme. But the public sector retirement plan business started with the large insurance companies like Nationwide and, believe it or not, Aetna and some of those firms, which turned into ING and Voya, and now we all know those names. So the 3 of them, there was a layoff. It got to be 1999, if everyone remembers the dot-com bubble. That's where it was do it yourself, go to the internet. Why do we need people anymore? And we refused to believe that the public sector was ready for that. So we turned around and worked with some other record keepers and started RPA. 26 years later, we now stand at 6.1 billion in assets, over 600 unique retirement plans, 100,000 plus participants. We work in 31 states, and we have 50 plus dedicated retirement plan advisors, probably 60 plus total advisors. So the model worked. We went to Cambridge and said, hey, if this is working so well here, can't we offer this out to everyone at Cambridge? We can be the pros. We need a Rolodex, and they need the expertise and the resume. So Darren and I, so we started a joint venture with Cambridge. They actually bought a piece of our OSJ about 3.5 years ago. And Darren and I are really challenged with going out to meet folks like you and saying, hey, where are there opportunities right in your backyard? You don't have to learn anything. You don't have to know anything new. Give us a name. We'll be on a phone, set up a 15-minute phone call. We do a fact-finding piece, and we do all the homework and legwork behind you. You can be as involved or not involved as you want to. And we split compensation because we're all one big family. So that was the idea. That evolved with Cambridge. Again, that was 3.5 years ago. That evolved into, hey, you know what? With Secure Act 2.0, the pooled employer plans, the PEP plan in the private sector, Cambridge said, you know, that's a great way to also capture some assets. So we were able, and we're built already to provide 321, 338 investment fiduciary services. And we could be that part of a PEP. And sure enough, Cambridge has the Everyone Saves PEP plan, which we act as 321 and 338 on. So also an option just to keep in your an arrow in your quiver, if you will. They're really efficient. They run really well. It's competitive. It's cost effective to a small business that gets nickeled and dimed. It's really, really cost effective. So we also work with Cambridge on the Everyone Saves PEP plan. That led into managed accounts, which are becoming more and more popular. Obviously, every record keeper wants to have a new revenue stream. We see that with the likes of an Empower, a Voya, Fidelity, all the large record keepers. But there's a behavioral finance aspect to it as well. Instead of just a target date, set it and forget it, where everyone thinks that, hey, you know what, I'm going to retire during these years, so I'll just go into that. That assumes we all have the same risk reward. And the truth is we're all different. Not that it's a great analogy, but if we all went to a casino, some people bring $100, some people bring $500. Some people say, I'm just eating at the free buffet and I'm going to hang out. So there's all different levels of that risk tolerance that we all know in this business. And target date funds are not one-stop shopping. Not everyone's built the same way. So managed accounts have gotten so dynamic. We partnered with Morningstar and the big record keepers, where we're doing the assets under management, if you will. We use extremely efficient CITs at single-digit basis points. Morningstar's engine, which creates the algorithms, and everyone's different. Even if we had two 30-year-olds sitting next to each other, they answer one question different, all of a sudden their algorithm's different. So it's very much customized. It's not a set it and forget it. And then the record keepers built onto that as well. Morningstar's being the leader on that piece of it. So we partnered with them, and Cambridge said, that's great. So let's move forward. This is just, again, one more arrow in the quiver that RPA with Cambridge is offering. And being a large enterprise group like Premier, that's where you have this resource. Like I said, you don't need to learn anything. You have the Rolodex. We have the resume. Let's talk. With that, I see Josh just hopped
Yeah.
on, which is
All right.
that was scripted, by the way. He just flew in on a helicopter.
Yeah.
So
Thanks, Ken. Good morning, everybody. And I want to apologize for being late. I'm not going to make an excuse. We all know sometimes things happen in technology, but I deeply apologize for keep you waiting. I've been on for a few minutes, so Ken, thank you for sort of sharing some of the high level of why managed accounts make sense. And we'll talk a little bit about the differences in detail between target date funds and managed accounts. We're never going to hide from the real question, which I like to say in the beginning. Why would I pay for this? Because we all stand in a fiduciary capacity to the plan and our participants. That's how we see ourselves. We always want to make sure we're benefiting the participant. So as professionals, we need to do that deep dive and understand, is there value? Is the cost worth it? And then how would we appropriately integrate it into a defined contribution plan once we've done that due diligence? So I'm going to walk through in a little more detail, keep it to a half hour, jump in at any time with questions. We're a small group. I assume everybody can unmute. Everybody can hear me, right? Yeah, thanks, Josh Caesar. By the way, if you say Josh, we won't know who you're talking to. So it's Josh C or Josh S, or, whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I am going to do it this way. I'm going to go into presentation mode if it will let me. Can everybody see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
All right. So obviously I am looking at the screen and not you. So I will trust that you will all, I just went out of presentation mode. You will let me know if you have a question. Just jump in. So Cambridge, as Ken shared, has launched in-plan managed accounts. The service name is Portfolio Plus, just Portfolio Plus. It's not going to be branded as Cambridge, even though it's Cambridge's service, because we want to, and we'll show some of the materials that we're developing with Cambridge. You will be able to put your logo on it, whether you do business as Premier or under your own DBA. Just high level, I think everybody should know what a managed account is. Ken already mentioned it is in partnership with Morningstar. Morningstar has a lot of brand name recognition, so we think that's a positive. Essentially, it brings a personalized strategy into the DC plan for that participant at scale. It is done with I'm just going to use the term. It's an algorithm, as Ken said. It's a robo-advisor with Morningstar. It is more than just an allocation. It also recommends savings rates. So it is the beginning of a forming of a holistic retirement plan. There's a dedicated team, the RPA team, which is the invisible inside engine. There's you as the advisor. There's Morningstar's team. And there's a degree of simplicity with it. What we're trying to do, we know in the retirement industry over the last 25 years, we're trying to make it easy for people, working Americans, two-income family, little league, soccer, maybe now it's lacrosse. I don't know what your families are doing. I bet it's one of those three. People are overwhelmed with the idea of planning for something 20, 30 years away that has to last for 30 years. They know it's important. They don't know how to do it. So we're trying to bring turnkey solutions into the plan. We believe, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't have done this with Cambridge. As Ken said, this is an important component to be considered for your plans. And that's the goal of this meeting. Professional money management, as Ken mentioned, we are using CITs. And we're going to go into more detail where the benefit of the CITs is in terms of the asset management solution for the participant. And then what we're doing underneath the hood in managing these CITs is Morningstar is maintaining the participant allocation on an ongoing basis. As Ken said, based on the information that participant gives, they will get a different answer, even if they're the same age, which a target date fund doesn't do. And any changes they make in their account. Someone increases their contribution, somebody makes a deferral, Morningstar changes takes a loan, Morningstar will adjust the allocation. And then we are managing the CITs based on manager due diligence and also what's happening in the markets. Why managed accounts? All right, let me pause there. This is data coming from several different sources. Why do managed accounts make sense? This is work done by, you can see in 2023 from Franklin Templeton. Not Morningstar. We were looking for a non-Morningstar source. 80% of workers feel comfortable sharing some information with their employers for a more personalized benefit. For a long time, people were like, we shouldn't ask employees to put into our plan system online any personal information. But what we're finding is that, and what the research is showing, is that participants want and need help. They look to their 401k, their employer retirement plan, for retirement safety, security, success. The only area I would argue of partnership in DC is in a public-private partnership on retirement, Social Security plus a 401k plan. We've had Secure and Secure 2.0 in the last handful of years, 5 years, large enhancements to the 401k space when almost nothing else gets done in Congress. This is a national push to address what we know is that retirement crisis for half of working Americans. Employees are looking for help, and they would be interested in a more personalized portfolio. And what we also know is that people who run their own money generally do a bad job. I don't need to convince you of that. That's why you are all wealth managers. It's because people don't do a great job running their own money. We ran these ourselves. You can see the lovely disclosure, got through Cambridge. April 1st, 2006 to March 31st, 2026. S&P 500, 9.99%. S&P 500 Barclays Ag 60/40, 7.67%. The bond index 3.9. This is one of the only 20-year periods where the bond index didn't outperform the average investor. And the reason is 2022. For those of us, all of you know that the Barclays Ag had its worst return in 2022 ever, minus 13% approximately. That's dragging down this 20-year number substantially. If we had run this before 22, the average investor was underperforming the ag. We also know the average investor has a fair amount, anywhere between 10 and 30% in stable value in cash. For the first time in a long time, those are returning 3, 4, 5%, depending on where your fixed account or CD is. So that changed this proportion a little bit. But the bottom line is the average investor is 250 basis points below a balanced portfolio. Now, this doesn't tell us why they should be doing a managed account versus a target date fund, but it does remind us why they probably shouldn't be running money themselves. Well, that went the wrong way. And then the next slide, let me see. Yep. Did I go out of sequence? Okay, mitigating negative behavioral tendencies. The graphic looked the same, so I got confused. Ken already touched on this at a high level. And this one did come from Morningstar. When plan sponsors now have given Morningstar all of their plan data and say, do an analysis on where you think what their glide path should be at a certain age. There's a bubble chart that Morningstar can run for any of your potential clients. In their estimation, 73% of participants were off track. So in the managed account solution, by off track, they weren't in the right place to retire, whether their allocation or savings rate, but they were not on track to retire. And in the software that Morningstar provides, you can come in, you can do that analysis, and you can get point-in-time advice at no cost. You don't immediately have to have the Morningstar RPA investment solution. You can just get that point-in-time advice. Increase your equity allocation, save more. Period. What they found was, out of the people who interact, who were off track, 2/3 of them increased their savings. This is really important. It's not just the investment piece. It's the engagement with their retirement that we see managed accounts helping. Target date funds were established to set it and forget it. Let's just put people in so they can close their eyes. That gets them at least a okay allocation. It doesn't engage them in the, am I on track? Am I saving enough? How much longer do I need to work? And the managed account tool takes them to that next step. So out of the people where the answer was, hey, you're not in a great place, 2/3 of them saved more money through that interaction. So what we have is a web portal that is working to help it change behavior. And what is it? Increase a 33% increase in the median deferral rate. So not just did they increase, but it was a meaningful increase. And we all know that, short of, I'll be inappropriate, short of Bitcoin or picking, NVIDIA at the right time, you can't invest your way out of insufficient savings. You have to save a reasonable amount of money and a reasonable portfolio to have it to retire successfully. And again, we're talking here average working Americans. And average working Americans also retire sometimes with $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $600,000. I'm going to show my age. There's at least a 70% chance I'm the oldest person on this call because Josh, Caesar, and Sebastian are both much younger than me, and I'm very jealous. When I was a kid, $1 million was high net worth. That was high net worth. That was crazy. You were a millionaire. If somebody retires today with $1 million in Social Security, they are middle class. If you used a 4% rule, you're only getting 40 grand. Now that's intended to last forever. If you did one of these income annuities, and I'm not suggesting anybody would take their whole $1 million 401k and do that, you might get 7%. So that's 70,000. That's middle class. $1 million is not wealth anymore. It's what you need. And there's going to be a lot of people. Now, though, those may not be your target client. They might be. It's that term mass affluent. So what we're finding is that there is a significant group of people with a nice little balance who want help, and the managed account portal is helping them get there. All right, let's dive into managed accounts versus target dates. Let me pause for a second. Questions, comments? Anybody want to challenge anything I'm saying? Ask a follow-up question? Hearing nothing, I will continue. When I look,
we got one, Josh.
Jim has Jim Williams.
Jim Williams.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Just real quick, maybe you're going to cover it. The involvement with Morningstar, are they using specific portfolios of theirs? I just asked because I use Morningstar on one of my wealth management platforms, one of my asset management platforms, and they have some great portfolios. So I'm just curious if those are available or if this is specific to the retirement plans.
It is specific to the retirement plans. It is not a mornings. So as we know, a portfolio, I'm going to cover it in detail, but I also want to give you the short answer now. A portfolio has two components: the underlying building blocks and the asset allocation. The asset allocation methodology is identical to what you're using on the wealth side. The building blocks are different because in a retirement plan, the building blocks either have to be the core menu of the plan, or in this case, we're using RPA CITs. RPA managed CITs. The CITs, is through Alta Trust and custody to Schwab. But Jim, great question, and I will get to that in detail probably in about 3 slides.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. The big boogeyman, white elephant, why a managed account versus a target date fund. I'm actually interested, everybody can tell me after the meeting, we use the term target date funds are cookie cutter solutions based on the average working American. Sometimes I know it's honest, I know it's accurate. Sometimes I think it's a little harsh by calling it cookie cutter. But the bottom line is the only factor is age. Years to retire is a little more accurate. That means every 30-year-old, 50-year-old, 60-year-old is going to have the same allocation, assuming an age 65 retirement date. And I want to pull on that thread a minute. I'm going to share my perspective as I'm an investment advisor. I would argue that any 30-year-old in a 401k plan can have the same allocation. Maybe we adjust it a little bit for risk tolerance. You're going to be 85, 90, 95, or 100% equity. So I would argue they should all be 100% equities at 30. There's 29 and a half years before they can even touch it without a penalty, 35 years before target retirement, and a 20, 30-year time horizon. With that time frame, why wouldn't you be in a global equity portfolio? Regardless of your salary, regardless of your other circumstances, there's no reason that I can think of. People can disagree with that. I'm sharing my perspective. I would equally argue that we cannot put every 60-year-old in the same portfolio. Some are two-income families with no dependents, no debt, paid-up house, summer place in Florida, and 2 new cars, and $1 million in their account. And somebody else is a single person on their second marriage with 2 new young kids. And yet they're going to, with, a pile of debt. I mean, those are 2 extremes and everything in the middle. How would we possibly consider their retirement account to be in the same allocation? And yet that's what a target date fund does. And if we're honest with ourselves, if you have across your book of retirement plans, 20 plans and 3,000 participants, you can't do a personal allocation individually with all of them. It's not practical. It's not scalable. You're not being paid for it. Let's just be honest. You do that for a living and you have a fee structure and a minimum account balance if you're going to bring on a wealth client. So the challenge as an advisor to the plan and for the plan sponsor is, can we find an appropriate custom solution for that audience, that segment of our client, of our participants who need custom solutions? And we need to be able to do it at scale at a reasonable cost. Now, obviously, the key is cost. These are really, I've cut on the first 2 bullets, touched on the first 2 bullets. Target date fees vary, but they are going to be typically lower than managed accounts. Let's just use the Vanguard index funds as a target date fund. Any plan now can get them at 8 basis points. There is no managed account solution that's going to compete on fees. The question is value, and will the customization, will the engagement justify the fee? We think yes, but that's the question we all have to answer for ourselves as advisors through our due diligence. This is from the Empower Institute that they did a few years ago. They are finding that the value for a managed account, and they separated those who just clicked it or were defaulted into it through a dynamic QDIA versus those who actually spent time on the website, because they track that on their website. And Empower has hundreds of thousands of participants now in managed accounts. They're finding 55 to 92 basis points of excess estimated value over a target date fund. Again, not the unmanaged person doing it themselves. They're 300-400 basis points behind. And for the person who's engaging and putting in more information and getting a more custom solution and maybe engaging on savings rates and adjusting target dates, they're getting 150 to almost 200 basis points, 192 basis points. So does it justify the fee? This data suggests yes.
Hey, Josh.
Yes, sir.
This is Josh C. Can you go back? I mean, I was going to add, this is a service, because look at all those benefits there. Like, it'll tell you,
Thank you.
Are you saving enough? Saving enough, right? So if I'm saving 6%, it's going to tell me, no, you need to save 8%, or Social Security integration or withdrawal strategy. So it's a service. It's not just like a managed account that we're doing on the individual wealth side. This is a service. I think the industry has to find a way to maybe rename it, but I think it's a service that they're providing too for a fee.
And Josh, are there sample outputs that we're able to share after this call? Like is that a thing that Voya will do or Morningstar will do? Like, they answer their questions and then they get a deliverable on what they need to do and what the managed account's going to look like, or that's not really a thing?
So there's all kinds of materials that we can get from Morningstar. When you say, Sebastian, I'm not sure when you say a sample output, I mean, on their statement, it just looks like a reallocation.
Josh, like what I'm saying is, if they're going through this, they're answering these questions, right, about their savings, their debt, their Social Security. Yep. Do they get like a list of like, oh, you need to up your
action items? I got you.
Yeah,
it happens on the screen, and we can do a follow up. And for those who are interested, And interested doesn't mean I want to do this. Interested is, hey, yes, I have retirement plan clients and I should understand this more fully so I can make a recommendation. We can set up a call with that subset with Morningstar, who will walk through the participant experience so you can see what the participant have and what that output is.
Okay.
And I want to piggyback, Josh Caesar, thank you for bringing my attention back to the key benefits. Roth versus pre-tax. The employee puts all that information in. The algorithm is going to project out their retirement income, project out their social security, and may say, hey, based on current tax rates, you're better in Roth today because your distribution's tax free. So it's including that analysis, which you would do for an individual wealth client, but in the thing. I think Peter Anker has raised his hand. I got lucky on what showed up on my screen.
Yeah, I did raise my hand. And you may have just answered my question, and that is, so I have a two-part question. One is, again, a reminder, this is for participants in a defined contribution retirement plan. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Because, and the second part of it, and I think you've already answered it, is when I look at the list of what we do here, these are things that we do for clients. Why would I be replacing myself? But I think if I understand the answer is, well, yeah, you do for individual clients, but for these people within retirement plans, it's much more difficult to get at this granular level to be able to provide this type of advice, and
Correct.
therefore you lose it. And they have their 401k or their 457
Right.
with you, but they don't do any of this other stuff, which may uncover other assets or ways that you can be of assistance. Am I correct with that?
You hit the nail on the head, I think. Yeah.
100%, Peter.
I mean, Peter, like, for example, I'm approaching 50 plans, right? And hundreds of participants. I plan to start using this more for I hate to say it, the rank and file, right? And then, I can focus, or me and Sebastian and Rich and Mark can focus on the highly compensated, right? Let's just be honest with each other on this call. Like that's kind of how we plan to use it, right? So, yeah, the lower end of the book, the smaller balances are getting taken care of by the service.
100%.
And I think this is Ken with RPA. I think they see this, and it's a triggering moment where they go, wow, there's a lot more to this than target date. It's doing all these things. Every one of those things that's listed on the right side of this slide are conversations you're having with them, with other family members, and gaining additional assets through your folks, or setting them up for when we retire, we're going to move this, and these are the things we need to focus on.
Yeah, maybe Josh is going to cover this, but the participant can put in the Morningstar system. I have an outside IRA, and then that exists, and maybe you can capture those dollars too. So that's
Exactly. Exactly.
So there's several things happening there. And Peter, this was just a fabulous question. And Josh, you said it with honesty. If let's take a small business where, there's 2 owners and 30 employees. The 2 owners with the big account balances, they're your personal client. I don't know that you're going to put them in the managed account. You're going to build them an allocation in their 401k and match it to their outside wealth as well. But to the rank and file, like Josh said, if you have hundreds and hundreds, the person with, $80,000, you're not getting paid to do this unless the plan's going to pay you 80 basis points on all the assets, in which case you can give individual planning away.
That's actually part of my question with respect to the smaller, because I agree with you.
Yeah.
You focus with the highly compensated employees first. But the others who say, actually, I do have $300,000 or $500,000 sitting over here, and you kind of go, what? Where'd that come from? For you?
Yep.
Well, yeah, I've been here 25 years. Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about that. You may or may not get there, but when they identify that, when they say, gee, tell me about this Roth conversion, who does that? Do I get paid for that? Because again, it's rank and file down here being quote unquote taken
Right.
care of by whom?
Well, that's a great point. So because if you're doing a group presentation at the employer, one, you might take somebody in a 15-minute, review, walk them, hey, let's take a look at the managed account feature where you do the discovery with them and they put in the information. You can make that determination with them as the local advisor. If they go on the website and they do it themselves, right now that data is still being held. It's and nobody gets to see it. So we don't get to market off the data that somebody puts into the Morningstar system by themselves at home. But if you do it with them, then you know what it is. And to your point, Peter, now you're having the broader conversation that, the employee you're talking to might be the $43,000 person with a small balance, but their spouse might have a big balance and they may not have a financial planner. So yes, you can uncover opportunities. Am I addressing where you're going and sort of as we explore what the interaction might look like?
I think so, although I'm still curious. So we provide this great service for something that we don't get paid for.
Well,
Oh.
actually, you do get paid. And this service here, these recommendations, sorry, my screen is too. All of these things listed here are being done by Morningstar. Somebody goes onto the website, all of this is being done through the algorithm. You're not actually having to do this. And in this setup, the way Cambridge did it with Morningstar, as the IAR, bringing it to the plan and educating the employees on the service and potentially sitting with them in some cases, you can be paid on the service. You will get BIPs on the assets. I should have said that in the beginning, Peter. I missed that. Unlike today, and that's actually the next slide, why Portfolio Plus versus, for Voya, it's the VRA or any of the record keepers proprietary ones, which in most cases, certainly with Voya, is the Morningstar engine already. So it's the exact same user experience. But the difference, and you can see it on the last bullet, is and you can get paid on it. So as we, I think, all know, the drawing a blank, the proprietary versions of managed accounts all use the core menu. Right. And best practices for a core menu is a streamlined menu list of funds in core asset classes only, so that person can build a reasonable allocation without hurting themselves. You would not limit yourself to a core menu if you were creating a portfolio for a high net worth client. We can go off the core menu. We do go off the core menu using the collective investment trusts, which are custodied at Schwab. So we are functionally having access to the same building blocks that you would use in a wealth management situation. We can, if we don't like any active large cap growth managers, we can just use the Russell 1000 ETF. If we don't like a manager, we know if a manager is struggling on the core menu, you have an IPS. It goes on watch, it sits there a year, you make an evaluation, you decide to change it, you have to change it for the whole plan, redo all the forms. It's a, not a blackout, but a 30-day notice. It takes 15 months to 2 years from a fund struggling before it gets replaced. If we see a manager isn't doing well, or if we think their style is out of favor, just like you would with an active managed account that you can do on the wealth side, we can flip that out in 3 to 5 days. We can run, basically, we're bringing institutional asset management inside the DC plan. And then the true additional special sauce is you. With the proprietary managed account, you can tell people it's there, but you're not an IAR on that service. You can educate on it, but you can't really engage with them on it, and you don't get paid on it. As Josh Caesar said, let's just be honest. Whereas here you do. So,
Hey, Josh.
yes, sir.
And I would just add too, like, and RPA's got at least one, maybe two CFAs on staff, premier team. Like, so like they got some serious bench that are making these investment decisions behind the scenes too. So just so you know, yeah.
And we can also, for those who are interested, have our chief investment officer. We have two full-time CFAs. We manage right now. We advise on $8 billion in client assets. Our practice group is a little different. Premier is a network of individual financial planners. Sebastian, I don't want to speak for you. RPA is mostly people doing business. In some ways, we're called the Cambridge Enterprise Group, but in many ways, we're also just a very large practice. We do core retirement plans and then wealth management on the individuals. So we're advising on overall total $8 billion in assets, $6 billion in plan assets, and we're running right now just over $600 million in discretionary assets. We have two full-time CFAs on staff. We have a third CFA who actually has his own independent practice, and he sits on the investment committee along with me. And then we have a full-time analyst who's going to be starting the CFA program in January. So it's an investment committee with five full-time people. All right, let me dive into what's happening, Portfolio Plus versus the Record Keeper version, starting with what's the same and then talk about what's different. If anybody's looked at it, the way Morningstar works, and this is going to be true with Voya, with Empower, with Principal, all of the main companies are using Morningstar. They have 3 accumulation and 3 decumulation. These are basically the models that are created for accumulation and decumulation, equity and fixed income. And Morningstar, in the proprietary version, will build these models using the core menu. What's happening with, and we already covered this, what we see are challenges with the core menu relative to trying to provide active management or fee account. With the CITs, we have created 4 CITs, which are then blended by Morningstar to create literally hundreds, if not thousands, of possible portfolio allocations based on each participant's experience. So the earlier question, and I think it was Jim. So Morningstar is creating the allocation. We're giving them the building blocks. And then, as I shared, it's totally open architecture. We had gold in 2022 and 2023 in our equity models. It was great. We sold early, but we at least got some of it. We can use private market vehicles. We can put in an evergreen fund that's in private credit or private equity. We haven't done it yet. We're looking at it, but we have the ability to put in investment vehicles in the CITs that you would never put on the core menu.
Correct.
Question.
Yes, please.
I'm hearing some of the terminology here, and I may be confused. Is there a specific licensure required to be able to use this platform?
You just need to have be an IAR of CIRA. So no. I assume everybody uses an IAR.
The answer is yes. The answer is yes.
65, Series 65, 66 license, Peter.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah.
Bingo. Yep. That's all.
So here's what's happening in the CIT construction, and it's not anything you haven't seen before. So the core menu has, large, mid, small US, non-US, developed, and emerging markets. Whereas off menu, some of the things we can do or are doing. So when we look at global equity, depending on whether it's the accumulation or decumulation model, the 4 CITs we've built so I'm going to go back a slide. My mouse keeps going the wrong direction. I should not use it. These decumulation models have on our 4 CITs, we have a conservative, think of it as fixed income, conservative in retirement, which is a more conservative version of that CIT, growth, which is all equity, and then the in retirement growth, which is a more conservative version. And so, for example, in the global equity, in retirement, we might be hedging currency to reduce volatility. Equal weighting. I assume everybody knows. We all know, of course, the S&P 500 is a cap-weighted index. There's also ETFs with equal weighted indexes. So right now, because we were concerned about the multi-year concentration of 8 stocks in the S&P 500, and wanting to at least consider taking advantage of a broadening of the market, we took part of our S&P large cap allocation and moved it from the cap weighted to the equal weighted, which has actually been very beneficial for the first 4 months of this year. There's lower in the index world. You can buy the ACWI. There's also a low volatility version of the ACWI available as an ETF. Those are the kind of things we can do. We can bring in REITs, gold, I already mentioned, income-focused equities. You're not going to put 5 different equity funds, or generally 5 or 6 different equity funds on the core menu. But in our in-retirement growth CIT, we can put in income-focused equities versus having growth-focused equities on the growth. Essentially, the same tweaks you would make for a client in portfolio construction, we're making in the CITs. And then Morningstar, knowing what's in the CITs, is then blending it for the participant based on the data coming through the plan record keeping system and what the participant adds. Is it as good as what you would do for an individual client fully customized? I'm just going to say it. No, because it's still a robo-advisor, and it's not going to take into account somebody's risk tolerance. Is it going to be better than a target date fund for a 55-year-old who has personal circumstances, and the only factor isn't that they're 5 or 10 years away from retirement? I would argue yes. And then when you look at the engagement, Morningstar, and we'll let them present this case, believes it's even more valuable for the younger person because the engagement leads to higher savings rates. But that's a whole separate conversation. We'll have that one with Morningstar. In the fixed income space, we're all familiar with the range of fixed income asset classes or subcategories or sectors within the fixed income broad asset class. General account and short duration are competing funds. You rarely even have them both on the same. We can obviously we can't put a general account in the CIT, but we can put a money market in if we want short-term interest rates. We can hold cash now at over 3%. Core fixed income, multi-sector, core plus, high yield, bank loans, tips, short duration, long duration. We can manage the fixed income space in the same way you would, again, in a client managed account, whether you're doing it or you're doing it through a cap strategist. We can do the same thing in the CITs and the 401k. This is in some ways really some of the biggest value. When we look at core menus, you might see an increase of asset classes in the equity side. We usually don't see a lot of bond funds. You see a fixed account and a handful. But we also know that 50 plus group, they're going to have 30, 40% of their portfolio likely in fixed income. At least 20, unlike the younger people. Back to why I think younger people, maybe Morningstar disagrees. You could just put a younger person in 2 index funds and call it a day, we could argue. Put them in the S&P 500 and the ACWI, XUS, and let them sit there for 10 years. You would not do that with a 55-year-old. So again, the tools. And the last piece, and I try not to say this in front of record keepers, most plans have the fixed account. It's how you get a record-keeping credit and a lower record-keeping fee. Fixed accounts are very appealing. Over the long term, they're better than money markets, but you don't get a guarantee on principal for nothing. So a fixed account is basically a short to intermediate term bond fund with a guarantee of principal, which means it's going to underperform a bond over the long term. If we're managing a portfolio, we manage risk through allocation. We don't need to buy insurance, which is what a fixed account is. You're buying insurance. This is a growth of $100. You know, when we see fixed accounts out there, obviously there's some today, brand new plan. They're showing some heavy teaser rates, but your older plans, and tell me if I'm wrong, your older plans are all sitting at fixed accounts sub 3%.
Yeah,
Is that
I'm looking at a $30 million plan right now with principal. They're at 1.5.
1.5? And if you're using the principal principal proprietary managed account, how much of their fixed income allocation is going in their fund at 1.5%?
Yeah.
Now, technically, Morningstar in that principal version is an independent financial expert, FIE. And there is no say that principal has in the allocations. And I believe that's the case. And Morningstar is still hired by principal to do it. But principal is working with the plan sponsor on the plan menu, and they are basically giving record keeping credits to have their fixed account in there. We don't have the fixed account in our CITs. The record keepers don't love it, but they recognize it. This is growth of 100 over since 2005. You can see the monster drop in 2022. So we're not hiding from the big drop in the Barclays Ag. But the 20-year returns are 140 basis points. I think, again, where we see the value of the AMA versus the proprietary version. Go ahead, Josh.
I don't know how many more slides you have, Josh, but I do have a couple
more.
I have a couple.
Oh, it's late. Yeah,
yeah.
Go ahead.
What record keepers are you currently available with?
So today it is just Voya.
Okay.
Where there is interest, because anywhere where Morningstar has it, we can do it. So if there's interest with principal, we'll start the we actually are about to start the conversation with principal. If it's Empower, you tell me the record keeper you're interested in. We'll see if they have it with Morningstar, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah. And like I said, so just right now, team at Premier, we can move plans to Voya and use this right now. I got a good relationship with Voya, get you good pricing. RPA works with Voya on the government side because they're one of the top government players, so we can use it in a local government plan too. Empower, they're a big player in the government space and the private sector. So yeah, so like I said, right now Voya, but so if you guys really like this concept, we can talk to me or whatever. We can look at moving one of your plans to Voya and using this. And then Josh touched upon it, but we can set up as the QDIA, which I don't think Josh and I are recommending, or maybe a dual QDIA, which I like right now is started maybe a Vanguard target date or American funds. And then at age 50, and I know there's flexibility here, at age 50, they get automatically mapped over to the managed account. They can opt out if they want, but they automatically get mapped over, and then they're getting discretionary money management by RPA. I think it's a really appealing situation. I actually think too, Josh, I mean, even for business owners that have a large value, you guys might do a better job than the advisor going in there and picking the funds off the core fund menu, because the advisor's not going to have discretion over the account. The participant still has to make the changes. You guys have discretion, and you're using ETFs and stuff off the core menu. I think it could be used by all personally.
No, so, thank you, Josh. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so just slip me that $100 bill next time we see each other. So that's all.
I apologize, A, being late, and B, running long. Just a couple of quick things I want to share. Just to summarize, I'll just jump to the end. We can send the PDF out. It is approved. You can see what we're currently holding in the allocations, different investment universe. The short version of it is people want solutions. TDFs cover many, but not all. It has to be provided at scale, and you make a critical difference. And you should get paid for it. We have pieces. This can become, like I said, this logo comes out. There's a plan sponsor piece, compliance approved, you're ready to go. And this one was done for a group in Iowa, but we can flip out your logo, resend it through compliance. This is done for the participant level, and there's more coming. We're working with Cambridge now on a branded participant PowerPoint that you could do as a group meeting. So Josh and Sebastian, I'm going to send these 3 to you after the meeting, so you can distribute. I just wanted to share so you could see that there are materials. And again, thank you all. I'm deeply grateful for the time. And I'm going to say it for the last time, deeply embarrassed that I was late.
No, and not late. And Josh S. always says this, and I'll say that because we're really close with Premier and Josh C. and Sebastian. We're in a world of gathering assets and then getting clients in plan because we're in the retirement plan community. Once we train people to understand the value of managed accounts, it makes it that much easier to make them an individual client when they leave, which is where your succession goes on. So we've created, we always call it our little pyramid or our triangle, where it starts with group plans, you build the relationships, you have your high net worth. Your high net worth is used to managed accounts. It's not a stretch for them to say, keep doing what you're doing because you got me through the hard times. And then it keeps going. And now they're your individual clients. So that's just, I'm speaking directly to the advisors on the call right now. And that's where it makes sense. So,
Well,
We're at the top of the hour.
Yeah, thank you, Josh and Ken and Darren. We appreciate your time. And if anybody at Premier has questions for me or these guys, you can reach out to them directly or through me or Sebastian. But appreciate you guys doing this for us today, guys.
Thank you
having us, and we're always welcome back. And I'm going to look forward to seeing you in Hershey.
Awesome.
Thanks, Josh.
Cool.
Thanks, Kit. Thanks, Darren.
Bye now.
All right, guys.